Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the NJ1ST podcast. My name is Ryan McDonald. I have another guest joining me today on a free speech platform. Today, we're going to be talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential run in New Jersey. He's been having a lot of momentum. We even have one of our former state representatives going to maybe be his vice presidential candidate. And we have Stanley Shapiro joining us today. He's a volunteer. He's from New Jersey, and he's with the RFK Jr. supporters. Welcome today, Stanley. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
And if you could start off the conversation, we're going to have a nice dialogue of why you're supporting RFK Jr. for president.
Well, thank you. First, I am a supporter, and I'm volunteering for Mr. Kennedy, Bobby RFK. I call him, but I can't really speak for the campaign. So there's a proviso, but I really. You ask me why I think that we've been in the state of politics in the country, and the state of the social state has been really disheartening for me over the past several years, and I think for many of us we're feeling that, and I'm supporting. I think R.F. Kennedy has come in, and he offers an alternative to what is a really discouraging, maybe I would say I felt unacceptable alternative that we, the people of America, are being presented. Suddenly we're being offered two candidates, um, Biden from the Democrats. It seems almost certainly now Trump from the Republicans, who the vast majority of Americans don't want either of them. We've had that choice. We've seen them where, we have a situation where, there's a trite saying is, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and expect a different outcome. So, but somehow our political system is in some kind of a loop or depression. Anyway, that's the negative. That's where I come in looking for, what there's a third way, and I think many Americans are looking for a third way. And I have spent my whole life identifying as a member of one party, and I've just recently, in the last years, of saying no, I'm independent now because the parties,
Nice.
and I don't think I've changed so much as the party I identified with has moved. I still believe in many of the same principles. All of the same principles of American democracy and the Constitution and freedom of speech. So that made me, the state of our current situation, made me looking for who would be an is there another choice out there? And I've known about Bobby Kennedy for for a number of years, but it didn't wasn't considering him as a political candidate until I saw I read he's announcing his campaign. That was almost a year ago, and I went and I made a point of going and hearing what he had to say, and every time I hear him speak, he inspires me. Typically, even in a new and more way, and so it's something curious for me. Is that, and I came into this saying, where can I find an alternative to the choices that we have, um, another Biden term or another Trump term, and more of this gridlock and just just what would I call it? Fighting. Just infighting
Right.
but not advancing really the interests of the people. Um, and I came away not just saying, "Oh, here is a viable alternative." I came away saying, "Wow, here is an inspirational man. He's brilliant. He has integrity. He has sincerity. He has candor, the honesty. He's speaking about real issues that I wasn't hearing about for years. I'm a little bit of a political junkie. I watch and read lots of news and talk. It's for sports. So I would consider myself very well informed about the public discourse, but the level of that public discourse was on such uh, uh, triviality, or just wedge. It wasn't speaking to what was really of interest and need and important to the day-to-day lives of myself and the people I'm living with and the people
Okay.
around me in the country. And suddenly, here comes Robert Kennedy, and you listen to him speaking, and he's talking about these issues, and he's bringing it, and it's starting to come out. He's talking about the war. He's talking about, we have a war going on in Ukraine, and then spreading around beyond that in the world, and um, and there's very little when he came out in last spring. There was virtually no discussion other than, we have to stop Putin and Russia. No, I don't have any brief for Putin, but there's a depth to this issue, and interest about going to a world war with or risking a world war with a nuclear power that wasn't being discussed. And somehow it just easily slid in for the administration talking about regime change in Russia. That's not without any discourse. We don't know what would happen in regime change in Russia. They have enough bombs to blow up the whole planet, and so there's got to be some more. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Is my interest is suddenly Mr. Kennedy's talking about war. He's talking about inflation. He's talking about
Okay.
the middle class. He's talking about housing. This is there's I'm looking around, and the average working class, middle class family, young people and family are now being totally priced out of home ownership. I don't know. I mean, that's
Mhm.
that's that's what I'm seeing.
Of
Which
course.
is part of the American dream. And they're now being priced out of home rental too. And
And
why?
think.
And there's no discussion about it at all, except for Robert Kennedy came forward and he's talking about it, and he has plans. He's thinking about these things, and he wants to, and he's wants to come up with real solutions. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things. The other thing about that drew him to me right away is I was feeling that um, through the pandemic years that we were not being there was I was feeling like there was an infringement on speech. Suddenly you could certain points of view couldn't be expressed on the social
Of course.
media, weren't hearing it at all on television, on the news channels or in the newspapers. There was an official narrative about this pandemic, and the responses to it, and only one set of opinions. You read it. There are scientists. Science is about debate, as is politics is about debate, and we weren't hearing the debate, and it turns out we weren't even being allowed to hear the debate, and so
Many of us
and
got censored off of social medias.
there you go. I got
Mhm.
censored. I would
And
I would put up comments on, let's say, Washington Post bulletin board, and I'd come back the next day, and my comment just disappeared. Like I didn't say anything outrageous. I was making, I think
mhm.
to myself, I'm making anyway. No one knows about it. So here comes Robert Kennedy, and he recognizes the problem that I was feeling, and he articulates it about censorship, about the importance of free speech and the First Amendment, and he talks about it in an intelligent, deep, knowing way, where he articulates and brings forward so many of the issues that I felt were of the most important concern for us coming
Mhm.
into the 2024 election. And um, and so that's on a policy level. He's I commend to everyone, go and listen to him yourself. Here, nobody, there is not a political candidate that has ever been, that I think has been as censored, as vilified, has been so much calumny said about him, and has been obstructed or prevented from getting out his message more than Kennedy, not that I can remember in my adult lifetime. And that's, getting
Except maybe
now
now
near
Donald Trump being
Donald
what,
Trump.
fined
Yeah,
three
yeah,
hundred
yes,
and $25 million just yesterday, and
yes,
it's
correct,
during his campaigning. It's definitely
correct.
taking away his speech, and that's probably the
Yes,
most, definitely,
yes,
to date,
they're
because of what they're
attacking.
doing.
So we're
It's
feeling it all
crazy.
around. You're right, exactly right. There's
And
somehow instead
for
of debate, you're using all kinds of legal means and all extra legal means
mhm,
to try to suppress,
same thing.
the free expression of ideas and now even voting for candidates. You can't.
Mhm.
They want to take the Trump off the ballot. I'm not. He had maybe if he was. I don't want to digress onto to Trump. But what I was going to say about Mr. Kennedy is,
Well, they're trying to take Kennedy off the
at
ballot as
least,
well.
and they're trying to keep him off for
So
sure.
it's the same topic, right?
It is. It is. I'll tell
With
you
the
one difference was with Mr. Trump or President Trump. They they want to, there are all these legal obstacles, and he gets, there's a part of America, the Democrats for sure, and some leaders that hate him so much, but they also love to show him. I mean, he does get you.
mhm.
He gets a lot of airtime. They show clips of what he says, and then they'll, put in
They
their
got to make money
opinions
off of
about
it.
it.
They got to make
Yeah, I mean,
money.
with Kennedy for many, many months, for years actually, but I'm now focusing on his candidacy, the time of his campaign. They won't even let him speak. You won't hear a
Mhm.
word of it.
And
They
and
tried
that's
to
why
ignore him.
and that's why JFK, or not JFK, I'm sure that happens all the time to many people. RFK Jr. has been, like you said, championing the free speech, been going on all the
Ex-
podcasts, all the
ex-
shows. He has been
yes,
now being invited to he's getting more views now, ironically, just because he's being shunned out of the mainstream medium. So now the independent medium, Joe Rogan's, the
correct.
podcasts that get more views, he's now getting more people like me are seeing him and liking him. And I definitely appreciate the free speech narrative that he takes, definitely. And I think he started his campaign as a healing initiative. Joe Biden first started his campaign. He was going to heal the soul of America. And he obviously did a terrible job. But RFK Jr. led with that as his campaign
Yes,
message.
exactly right. So,
Definitely.
so here's a difference that I
But,
see
but go on. Yeah, go on.
between uh, Kennedy and Trump, as
Sure.
candidates for president right now, is what you're doing. Is that, and I learned this watching him now, and so impressed is he's attacked like Trump is attacked,
Hmm.
with all kinds of innuendo and what are they pejoratives attached to Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah,
He responds to me with such grace. The few times you guys see him
true.
interviewed on the Main Street media, so at least to start with, when they would put him on and interview him, the interviewer was so hostile and attacking and would cut him off and speak, sort of correct him in a way, like they know. But he didn't respond in kind, and he doesn't respond in kind. And when they ask him to talk about the other candidates, and sort of putting it open for him to talk about them in pejorative ways, or to make it personal attacks against the others, and he avoids the bait. He keeps his conversation and his campaign on the positive of what he wants to do, what he tries to get out, what are the issues he's seeing, how would he like to correct them, and like you said, healing. His essential theme is that we're one country and we should be talking about the things that unite us much more than these wedge issues that divide and polarize us. And that's the message I've been looking for. Is
Do you think
let's talk.
do you
He
think
says
his
we should be debating, we should have discourse, but we should do it in a respectful way, and we should respect that there are other opinions that whether I agree with them or not, I can, most of the time I find is that there's kernels of truths that you can find on multiple sides of an issue, and things are not. I've learned in my life things are generally not black and white, or all one way or all the other. But but we've I think that the media and the political discourse has caused this rift and is breaking the country apart for uh, um, non-principal reasons. There's more corruption. There are power
Do you
interests
think
or
RFK
economic interests.
Jr. Do you think RFK Jr. has made any progress in uniting the country, or finding the soul of America? If you ask me, I think he might have uh, took a seat back on that, because if you ask me, I don't think the America is uniting. Do you think he's made progress on that?
Well, I think he's trying to. I think that
Of course.
I think that when you hear him, if you can hear him in his own words rather than in the labels and the character mischaracterizations, I would call it, but the characterizations that are put on him and the things he says on in the media, who don't want him. They clearly don't want him. They don't want you to know what he's saying. I think anybody with looking at it objectively would appreciate it. And you talk to people. I talk to people as, oh, what have you listened to RF Kennedy? And they'll say that conspiracy theory, that nut, he's crazy. Have
Hmm.
you heard him? I don't have to hear him. I know he's crazy. If you listen to him in his own words, you will find them healing. You will find them inspiring, and that the people, the movement of the people. You're saying, has he made any progress? I think the polls are showing that he has been making progress. You're saying, I think that if I read the poll, I was reading that among independents, he now has more support than either President Biden or former President Trump.
Interesting.
And so and I've heard that the number of or the percentage of people who are identifying as independent is greater now than it has been in our lifetime. That more and more people are identifying themselves, self-identifying as independent rather than as either a Republican or Democrat. And it's a product of a number of things, but of this time is how the parties and the party leaderships are leaving us. They're not real, they're they're there's a sense, I don't think I'm alone, who senses they're not really allowing us the choice. They're dictating the choice to us. I mean, and the fact that 75, 80% of the people in these polls say they don't want either of these two candidates. And yet
Hmm.
that's the choice again. And there's also a growing sense, I think, that we're not being told the full truth when we get a one either on the right or the left. The news media, whichever side they're aligned with, either the RNC or the DNC, they put a spin on it to try to advance the power of their side, or more often try to attack
Hmm.
the other side. That's what it comes down to, and what's sacrificed at that is what's really going on.
So,
And
in regards to party leadership, it definitely seems like one side, the Democrats, have their mind made up about immigration, illegal immigration, the southern border wall, and it mostly seems like the Republicans as well have their minds made up. Although the Republicans, always have that foreign aid package attached to the wall. That's what they're fighting with right now. But the Democrats, they would open borders still. They're back to the 2012. I'll give credit. There are some Democrats who aren't open borders, but RFK Jr. went to the southern border. Did you catch that by chance? That
I
video?
saw that, so he went and
And
tried to, before Biden did. He was
he
out
was the
there,
only
and
second. He was the only second Democrat to ever actually visit the
uh-huh,
border, which is
and
pretty bad for anybody that's a Democrat. But he went and he spoke to a lot of them. But he also revealed something. He revealed that they were mostly just illegals. They weren't asylum seekers. Even he would ask them. He would try and give them the answer. Be like, "You're here for asylum, right?" And they'd be like, "No." And he's just like, "Oh God,
Yeah.
there's
So
no one here for asylum." But at the end, he said he would build a big, beautiful door. Um, how do you feel about that?
so
Another port of entry, I guess, right?
uh-huh. So he has a plan, and is
Okay.
formulating a
Yep.
plan, and he goes about it in a methodical way.
Hmm.
He interviews the the border police, the border control INS. He interviews different, he speaks to asylum seekers, the people who are coming in, and the people who are, the state and federal officials, and the local politicians. So there's a what I see as a very admirable quality about Mr. Kennedy and his candidacy is that he likes to investigate. He can formula. He can change his mind. His opinions are based upon uh, reasoned
Okay.
analysis, and then he can be persuaded by facts on the ground,
Okay.
and to make new reasoned to come to new reasoned conclusions. I see him. He has a career. He's a brilliant trial lawyer, among other things.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I know firsthand with trial lawyers, you're dealing with organizing facts and putting them together to reach reasoned, persuaded opinions. And I think we're seeing that approach
Hmm.
in his formulation of on the border, on the immigration and the border issues, a concern about the this huge flood into America of undocumented aliens, and then coming all over being spread all over the
Hmm.
country.
And
And so he does not have a dogmatic position on it, as I can see. Although he wants to address,
and
separate out asylum from non-asylum. If you're what I heard him say was, if you're trying to get in without documentation and jump the line, but you're not subject to the asylum laws that, to protect him,
mhm,
then you can't come in. You have to go back and wait. The way,
mhm.
do it according to the law. And in terms of the asylum,
Wait,
because
no.
we have to deal with asylum raises special concerns. He also has plans. As if you're, I'm not an expert on this aspect, but if I think that the plan is that if you're an asylum seeker, and you stop in another, like if you're not from Mexico but you're seeking asylum and you come through Mexico, then you have to make your application from Mexico, not in the United States. And I heard him say he wants to bring increase the number of asylum judges so that the decisions can be made rapidly and
Mhm.
not just catch and release through the country. But
And
but also, if you have a real genuine asylum, uh, um, your need for protection, then there is also compassion and respect for the law that he would bring to bear on that. That's that's
okay,
how I understand them.
just to paint a picture for everybody, because he did go down to the border and address it. I mean, the border is porous as heck. No matter what, people are going to get through. The incentive is what it is. People, amnesty even is an incentive for illegals to try and break in. So, making another port of entry down at the border, that's a good idea. I like exactly how you're saying methodical. You got to, take the facts in. Um, and I'm just worried that so many more people are going to keep coming.
Mhm.
But it's at least he's trying to
Yeah,
participate
he's trying.
and
So let
address the
me
issue.
about the about this. We saw this going on in Washington. Uh, there, you know, the it's there's not what we saw is that the Republicans wanted to the Republicans in the House said we're not going to pass any other law. We're not going to pass the emergency foreign military aid statute
If it's
uh,
attached to the border wall.
that the Democrats want, unless you get increased security at the border. So Congress, so the Senate comes together, which wants the emergency aid, to the war, our two allies, and at war, in a hot shooting war, and they negotiate some bipartisan resolution to increase bipartisan law, proposed law to increase border security, and then the way it's reported is that Trump says, "Oh, I don't want to have anything passed on security while in this campaign year. Don't That'll help Biden win." So he tells the Speaker Johnson, "Don't pass anything." So then they now the Republican control the Speaker of the House and the majority say, "Well, the law that we asked for, we're not going to. It's dead on arrival. We're not going to consider it." Why?
Don't you think that
Because
foreign aid should go to the border?
that's not what they were saying. No,
No,
many. So
don't you think that the foreign aid should go to the border, the wall? It
I'd
doesn't
rather.
have to be attached.
I think if you asked
Why
me,
why are we giving money
what
to a war? Why are we giving money to war?
if you ask me, I think that each of these issues should be addressed on their own.
Single
Why
line, sure.
tie them? Why tie them together? But what I'm saying is that they don't really what it all is. It showed to me what I saw in between the Republicans and the Democrats in Washington over
Mhm.
the last, in the Senate and the House, particularly in the House, but both, that what we've seen in the last few weeks is just political posturing and not a genuine interest in advancing policy goals. It's just let's posture
And
politically to
unfortunately,
that way
it's
maximize our chances of keeping or gaining power, and
and
we've
unfortunately, the
got to get
foreign
away from
wars
that.
money with it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
the
yeah.
foreign war and the foreign lobbies are the only thing that's stopping that. But
Well,
just because
well,
you brought it up, the bill that everyone
yeah.
was talking about, even Dan Crenshaw trying to masquerade and lie to us as American people, saying that it's going to protect the border, and it's just giving money to foreign countries and actually allowing ag workers and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, and RFK is, he's the first one to raise that I heard in 2023. While no one else was raising any questions at all about our support of the war in Europe, he raised questions. He said, "Oh, there was a chance for a peace plan, and we nixed it, or why, or
Hmm.
we're having this devastating war. I don't want to put my own opinions in on it on the wars, and but I there are complications. I mean, we don't want to empower Putin, but we don't want to, we want to help the Ukrainians, but we don't want to bankrupt America. We don't want to start a world war. It's not all, as they say, not all black and white. There are grays
It's
in
looking
there, but
pretty black and
you
white
have,
to me.
yeah. All right,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think
I
that,
mean, Ukraine is complaining that they're not getting as much as Israel has gotten in the entirety for the last 70 years. I mean, oh no. And then you hear the Republicans complaining that I can't believe that Israel is not getting more and Ukraine's getting as much as Israel has gotten over the last 70 years. This is nonsense talk.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
black and white.
yeah,
It is easy. It's not our
yeah,
country. It
yeah,
has
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
to do with us. It is breaking
yeah,
our
yeah.
America. And
We don't,
RFK Jr. got in trouble after October 7th. He actually made some headway with the Libertarian Party. He was at that pork fest up in New Hampshire, and he had to pivot because he understands that the independents, as well as America First Republicans and Democrats, are not in support of those wars at all. And RFK Jr. understands that. Like you said, he pivoted because he definitely was in support of Israel's war against Gaza.
there's to lump together the amount of aid over 70 years to what's given in 1 year doesn't make any
That's
sense.
my Well, it's my
That-
grandfather. That's my
yeah,
grandparents, though.
yeah, yeah.
It's other people's grandparents,
So
not theirs, because they're
yeah,
immigrants coming here, for instance,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The
That
uh,
does matter to us, but we can leave the budget talk because that's just going to get everybody's heads blown
yeah,
off.
and so what
We
he's in favor of, I mean, one of the things is he wants to be able to have an open debate about these subjects, and he
Mhm.
started the open debate about it, and they are important, and there are, you know, middle grounds, I think, that because I like our the NATO, our alliance with Western Europe and NATO has stood us in good stead. He's talked about helping the Palestinians, that and their misuse of, like the war. You said the war in Gaza. He said we spent billions on in giving in aid to Palestine, to Gaza, that could have been a flourishing oasis. They could have built a beautiful beach resort and had trade, and they could live peacefully with the surrounding countries, including Israel. But instead, they have diverted all. These Hamas warlords have diverted all of their um, uh, money into building weapons of war and tunnels and tunnels. There are more tunnels under Gaza than there are subways in New York and Los Angeles combined.
I guess we
And
now find that
and
there's tunnels in New York too.
yeah, and the idea is to make war on the not to improve the lot of the people living there, and that's the way. That's a waste of resource. So, um,
uh,
um, yeah.
waste of
Anyway,
lives too.
and
Yeah.
waste of lives, exactly, on both
Well,
sides. On both
well,
sides, and
it's not our war, but we can talk about or finish up talking about the mainstream media. I know Jake Tapper actually. Have you ever heard that story with RFK Jr. and Jake Tapper?
I
He
did read
mentioned that a
about
couple
that.
times.
I
Yeah, he
did read
mentions that a
about
couple
that.
times, and he does have the same story that he tells when he goes on these podcasts because
Hmm.
that's what you got to do. You have to craft a story, and he's going on so many podcasts. But Jake Tapper, he was RFK Jr. did have some good connects inside the mainstream media, and as soon as they kicked him out, he knew that he was gonna have to run as an independent. He wasn't going to get that Democrat pull. I heard a different podcast; they were talking about RFK Jr. and they love what he's doing this year. I love what he's doing this year, but they don't think America's going to go for a third party this year. They think that RFK Jr. is going to be the result of a third party next year and starting in 2025.
Well,
How do you think about that?
okay, so I think that it, it, they want to tell you, they want to tell
Mm-hmm.
us, the people you call the mainstream. I've grown to call them the lame street media. They want to tell us that there's no chance, that we don't. But I want to tell everybody there is
Okay.
a chance. We have to take, but we the people have to take it back. We're the voters. They're not
Mm-hmm.
the media doesn't tell us who we can. They're trying to tell us, but if we come back and take and vote, we can elect an independent. This year is the most special election year in the sense that the two parties are putting up the two weakest candidates, that I can remember at one time. Certainly the two oldest candidates, and there's problems, I think, with both. I don't want, but we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
vote for them. And you can. My message is you can. And let me give a couple, about the media and what they're doing. First, before we one topic, I thought about it. I meant to get it out. I got a little diverted about the way the parties and the two main candidates are going. Is they have not neither Trump nor Biden has appeared in a debate, and they're pretty much telling us they're not going to debate. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair to the American people, and that's not fair to democracy. And that's what we're looking at is, is they're President Trump made a calculus that, you know a political calculus that, oh, I don't want to debate for my own, because I'm afraid it might impair my chances of winning. And President Biden similarly, and the DNC said, "Oh, we can't put President Biden out to debate, any challenges. It doesn't matter. But democracy, we are the voters. We are entitled to hear what the candidates have to say. And in fact, we, I would say it's incumbent. It's as part of democracy. It should be required of the candidates who are the main candidates, to seeking election to the highest office of America, to speak to the people through debate, have an open debate between the leading candidates so we can hear them and see if they are not just who he won on the position, but let's say for President Biden, whether he's capable of doing. There are questions about it. So I think if he would have agreed to debates in the primaries and he was able to do it, it would have helped his candidacy, because he would have been able to demonstrate to the people, the voters, that he's capable of doing that. Right now, there's a big uncertainty about that. And the same thing, I think that Trump it was unfair to the process for Trump not to debate the other candidates. And so, and I know that Kennedy is ready and willing and actually asking for and demanding a fair debates. So on that issue, the most democratic with a small d candidate is, again, Robert Kennedy. Now, in terms of the media and Jake Tapper and Kennedy Sanders, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I watched the I'm watching I watch the news and the talk shows and the cable networks, et cetera, and every single commercial break, there's at least one pharma ad.
Mm-hmm.
Many times there's 2, 3, 4 in a row. Basically, right. The media corporations are literally receiving hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of ad revenue from the pharma from big pharma. And they've been getting that. I don't know, you might not remember. There was a time, it wasn't that long ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, they changed up until then. You couldn't have direct pharma ads to the people, because you can't, if you and I can't just go out and buy one of these prescription drugs. They have to be you have to go to a doctor. There's a doctor has to write a prescription for it. So so their need for direct advertising is, the basis is a little bit more sketchy on these prescription pharmaceuticals, and you have to be an expert to be able to write that prescription. So why are they adding? It turns out, I think, an unintended consequence of the change in the law to allow direct advertising of the pharmaceuticals is that it gave an avenue. I don't think it was intended, but it gave an avenue where the pharmaceutical industry was able to be passing money legally to the media industry. And now you got a merging of interest. The media interest, they love it. They're getting literally billions of dollars coming their way. And it turns out the pharma industry realizes, oh, this gives us our sponsorship. We are now sponsoring the news. And by our sponsorship gives us a little bit of a control over, an influence. I shouldn't say control, but influence. But now here, but where the media has it is there is a conflict of interest now. Every time in terms of the news, network news and network talk shows, if they are receiving hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, or even tens of millions of dollars of ad revenue from a specific industry, and we know it's the pharma industry, there is now a conflict of interest in their coverage of public health questions when it relates to drugs and vaccines, and in particular, Robert Kennedy's candidacy. And we're seeing how his candidacy is being targeted by that. But if you're a judge, a federal judge right now, and you own 1 share of Microsoft stock, you're not allowed. You have to recuse yourself. You're not allowed to sit on a case where Microsoft is one of the parties.
Right. Makes sense.
Because there's at least an appearance of a conflict of interest. And yet the media is getting billions of dollars in ad revenues, and they're the ones who are the presiding.
That's 3 commercials back to back.
Yeah, 3 commercials back to back. And now and one of Kennedy's platform, part of his platform, is he wants to ban or ban that kind of direct TV advertising of prescription drugs.
Yeah,
He's also
I've heard. Go on, Phil.
Yeah, he has the most interest in public health of any of the
Mhm.
candidates.
That's
And
true.
that's what we care. That's what it will really affect us day to day. Us people, and yet they're not talking about. They're talking about. They want to talk about the insurrection, or
Right.
non-insurrection, and not just court cases, and so it's
Hmm.
not. It's not it's not what would affect America's people's lives,
Right.
and we have to try to break away. I call it. The Kennedy campaign has a slogan you refer to as "Heal the Divide."
Right.
I say, yeah, great, heal the divide. I say, break the divide. We have to get away from that and back to us trying, communicating with each other in a real civil ways, talking truth instead of all this, um, um, propaganda for one side
Hmm.
or the other, and all of this, attack of
Hmm.
personalities, and so again, I would say, listen to Robert Kennedy. It's so refreshing. He's not attacking personalities. He's talking about real things, and he's talking about it in such a way with such grace and empathy. Please listen to him with your own ears. Don't trust what you're hearing on other people saying what he says, and that includes
I
me.
think
Listen
those, yeah,
with your own ears.
I think that's good advice, and I really do appreciate you coming on and giving your own opinions and thoughts, and taking the repartee with myself and for the NJ First viewers. And I hope maybe you can come back on and we can talk about RFK Jr. as it relates to the public health, because that's really where he shines, and that's really probably what sets him apart. Like you said, I like how we did tackle the free speech. He hit the border. People don't. You tell people he went to the border, they probably wouldn't believe you. They might think, okay, RFK Jr. maybe, but they would have to go look at it first. Why not just believe him? Like he's a good guy. He's doing his best. All right. So I would love for me and you to talk again. Have you back on. RFK Jr. is not going to get out of the race. He's going to keep going through. That's what I like to hear. And where do you know by chance the headquarters for RFK Jr. in Jersey? Where it is?
Uh, I,
I
I
think Elizabeth. Elizabeth. It's
Yeah,
Elizabeth, I
maybe.
believe.
Yes. Robert Shalair is doing a great job. They're
Yep.
doing a great.
Yes, he
By
is.
the way, I want to thank you, Ryan, and your show is fantastic, and you're great. And I really appreciate your inviting me to talk with you. And everybody, you should watch Ryan's show. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I welcome you coming on. Not everybody does. A lot of people are scared. You have strength. Thank you very much for joining. And everybody, tune in to the NJ First podcast and come back, and we'll have more free speech discussions. Thanks for joining, Stanley.
Thank you. Bye bye.